Well, it's never out of the headlines at the moment. The queues at the airport, it seems to be an ongoing saga. In fact, it was back in October when the question was raised in Tynwald, and the Infrastructure Minister gave his explanations at the time. But Carole is joining us from the Manx Cancer Help Group. And Carole, you were literally caught up in it the other day. You saw it firsthand. You also took some pictures, which we'll be showing in a minute. But you hit social media saying it really was unacceptable. Can you tell us what happened?
Yes, we got there in plenty of time. We nipped into the quiet room to drop some leaflets off, and a policeman came in quite aggressively and asked what we were doing there. We do want the quiet room to be used by patients who can relax. We don't want them questioned. So that was the first issue. Then we waited for an hour in a security queue, got through eventually, and the same policeman really snappily told us to hurry up and run for the plane. And I'm concerned about people who are in the middle of aggressive treatments and some terminal people who won't ask for wheelchairs and who just can't manage these things.
Now, let's get this clear. Were you there in good time? Because this is what they were been saying, that there's going to be a social media campaign to advise people to get to their planes early.
We were there at least an hour and a half before our flight leaves, and it is a tiny airport.
So you've got this quiet room, which is especially set aside for you. Why do you think the airport police didn't understand that's what you were there for? I mean, that's a bit confusing me as well.
I honestly don't know. We have it on landside. We would prefer it on airside. And at the moment, the airport have offered us one on airside, which will be terrific. And people can then check in and sit there and wait for their flights. But that's no good if they have to stand in a queue for an hour and they're really, really ill. And some of them are.
OK, I think I now understand. So they've actually still got to be processed after they've been in the quiet room. So that is a problem, isn't it? Yeah. So they can't sit there too long because they've got to join this long queue.
There is a door they could use if they were... if it was agreed they could board first or sit there and board last, but that doesn't seem to be happening.
What can you do about this? Are you going to take this further?
Yes, I am actually. I'm going to talk to Anne Reynolds at the airport and probably Ray Harmer from the Department of Infrastructure and basically see if it can help. One of the people I know has suggested a sort of pass, like a disabled driving pass, so that you can get through first. And Liverpool Airport are tremendous at the moment. They're saying there's a 40-minute turnaround for Flybe, which is a problem. It's 20 minutes to get people off and 20 minutes on. And if you're not through boarding, then you've got a big problem. If you're not through security, there's a big problem for you. You just don't get on the flight. They went without 20 people on Tuesday, Monday.
We're seeing your pictures now. You took a few snaps down there. This obviously adds to the discomfort, the upset that people are going through anyway, especially when they're going for treatment, I'm guessing.
I've been through there with my husband many times when he had cancer. It's a nightmare without that. You're up at 4 for a flight you've got to be there at 6 for a flight at 7. You're ill, you're scared. A lot of them have got cancer. They go for chemo, radiotherapy. You're terrified, and then you're tired. And it's a horrific experience, believe me. You don't know what it's like till you've done it.
And this particular person that seemed to have not much sympathy, I mean, that must have just been the icing on the cake as far as you're concerned with what was going on that day. I
just feel I don't know anyone can not have compassion. Apparently, some of the people on the plane were moaning about the patients being boarded. It's just, again, until you've been there, you don't know how horrible it is.
OK, well, we'll see what happens. As I said, it was back in October when this was brought up in Tynwald. So there were various plans besides the social media. They are saying they're looking at trying to get more. Well, the second line, of course, there's 2 lines, isn't it? They could open up, but of course it's all down to money.
Apparently they say the second one is only for if the first one fails, but it's ridiculous, really. It's not the answer. It's not acceptable.
And for the near future, what would you suggest can happen? Because you've got passengers and patients and people in your care going through that system all the time, I'm taking it.
I think we need a door from the quiet room, which our charity would pay for, into security, which is directly beside the quiet room. And I think they need to be boarded either first or last.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens if we get response from DOI on this, or Anne Reynolds. But in the meantime, get that even earlier, I suppose, for some people. Well, not for your people in the quiet room, but for everybody else, just make sure you're there in good time to check through.
You still have to stand in that queue for an hour, which is not that good for able-bodied people, never mind people. I think for me, it's not the people in wheelchairs who are fairly well accommodated. It's the people who maybe having chemo, radio, or big ops or invasive procedures, and they're standing there for an hour. They can barely stand. I've been there, and I know what it's like. You won't complain, you won't ask for a wheelchair, but you have to stand there for an hour, feeling sick and barely able to stand up.